Good morning, Eswatini. Good morning, world. And welcome. It's the Connect. Yay. We missed you. Thank you for tuning in. Keep sharing the connections. As you know, we are live on YouTube and Facebook. So please wake everybody up in the house and let them watch We're the Connect. So today as you can see, this doesn't look the same, right? So today we're in a different space. We are out in the Valley of Heaven, Ezulwini, here in the beautiful kingdom of Eswatini. And we are live from farm to table. And we'll hear a little bit more about that a little bit later. But today we really wanted to come to you and say hello, but also talk about a very important subject. All subjects are important, but this time really our heart is to talk about tourism. So that's what we are talking about this morning. As usual, you'll be joining us in the room and you can share with us your questions, your comments, your take, your views, suggestions, anything that you have. We continue to speak with you even if you're behind the camera and your devices. We are a team as usual. You know, I'm never alone on this. My co-host is not with us today, so we continue. The show must go on, as they say. So we continue, and we always have the team behind the scene, the dream team behind the scene, as we say. So we're coming to you with the support of DTtv, Daniel Toro. We also have the lovely Linda Rego and Pinky Nyandoro, who are behind the scenes, just making sure that everything works smoothly. And the magic is here today. We normally are in studio and we don't have a live audience, and today that's what's different. We have people who are joining us. As you know, some of the protocols have been relaxed. And with that, it means we get to share the space a bit more. And so we are changing it up a little bit. Why not? And today we have some people who have joined us. So we say good morning to Natalie and Selu, who are with us. And they also will have a chance. You'll also have a chance to join us in the conversation. Absolutely. Tell us what you're thinking. Give us your ideas and your perspectives. And we'll share with you what that looks and feels like. I think we have some stills and pictures to share. But anyway, it's really good to be with you this morning. It's a cloudy morning. We had ordered the sun, but as you know, the sun is always shining even though we don't see it. So it's out today, and hopefully it will clear up. But it's as beautiful as always, and we're going to talk a little bit more about how beautiful it is with our topic of today. Okay, so remember, Facebook, YouTube, link in, share your link, invite people on so that we can have a good discussion this morning. We've missed you. We're back on. So I'm going to just turn to the screen. We have Calvin Lowe. Hello, Calvin. You guys rock, he says. And we haven't even started. Thank you, Calvin. Okay. So we've also got Zine. Hey, Zine. Lovely to see you again. Thank you for coming in. Please share the link so that we can join in on the conversation. Okay. And we'll wait for people to join in as they come. So that leaves me to introduce the beauties that are with us today. As you know, we are never alone in this. We always have people to come in and share stories and perspectives. And so here on my left, we have Siboniso. Good morning, how are you?
Good morning, and thank you.
Lovely to have you.
I think I'm well.
Yes, you think so? You're not sure?
So. I wasn't sure because of the weather, how am I, but I think now I'm getting better.
Good, lovely to have you. So Siboniso Madlopa, some of you may know his face in the local space. Is head of marketing at Eswatini Tourism Authority and is involved in business development. He's a BD specialist and of course inspirational speaker. And so it's really good to have you this morning. Give us some perspective of what's happening in your space.
Thank you.
And in the kingdom. And to my right, we have the lovely Thabile Maripe. How are you?
Good morning. I am very well, thank you.
Lovely to have you. So again, ladies and gents, we're going to put our handles on. These are really inspiring people that we have this morning, and you can obviously follow them, and we want that. So we want you to know what's happening in the space. So Thabile, and I'm going to read here because I love how you described yourself. Wow. A dreamer and believer. I love it. No, we need to take some pages out of this. Yes. Okay. Mother to a 17-year-old young lady. I love that. We've got our young ones growing up. Public relations and communication specialist, journalist, and of course, and this is really where I came into touch with Thabile. I only met you this morning, Thabile, but founder of Vakasha Eswatini. So if you have not connected, linked, liked, Vakasha Eswatini, please go on now and do so. And really what this is a movement aimed at promoting domestic tourism and showcasing the kingdom by the people of this beautiful kingdom. And I think that's a beautiful, beautiful story. We'll hear more about that, of course.
Right.
You have a career spanning 24 years in journalism, social marketing, comms, community development and humanitarianism. You're also an events planner, a traveler, foodie and self-taught cook.
Oh.
I love it. Yes.
Wow. I'm learning on
You are. You need to, your profile needs a little bit more, Siboniso. Just,
I didn't get the memo she
you
called.
didn't get the memo. You'll tell us more about you. Avid cook, adventurer.
I'll reserve that for later.
Good, lovely to have you. Thank you for saying yes. And of course, on the far end, another person who is not, who is very well known in our spaces, definitely not a new face, is Darron Raw. So Darron is very much linked to what we know as Swazi Trails. Again, go on, look it up, Swazi Trails. Also Legends Backpacker Lodge, and here at the Mantenga Craft and Lifestyle Center, where we are actually live from today. So you founded the whitewater rafting in Eswatini in 1991, Darron. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and what you probably now realize is I'm dating myself horribly when I mention that.
Don't do the math.
You're old.
Don't do the maths. Yeah.
You've also pioneered a number of other activities since then, such as adventure caving. Okay, take note, these are very important things, and we'll obviously be talking more. There's abseiling, extreme hikes up the face of Sibebe Rock, and obviously commercial mountain biking. And for 10 years, you've been the race director of the Swazi Extreme. I know this is something that people probably hear and have followed a lot, which is an adventure race, which provides also an opportunity to explore the hidden corners of this beautiful kingdom. So we've often heard about it and followed all the action around there. You yourself enjoy traveling, and we followed your adventures around the world. Very daring, yeah, and admirable. I think we all want to jump on your bus. Sometimes there isn't a bus. You're walking and hiking with.
We're definitely walking these days. Yeah,
yeah, a lot of
it's walking distance stuff now.
Walking distance stuff. But yeah, it's lovely to have you too, Darron, on the panel. So yes, as we said, we're talking local tourism, and obviously tourism is something that has been really impacted by COVID. And we were just talking earlier and sort of saying, we want to know what happened pre-COVID, but can we talk of a post-COVID? And, you know, we're kind of thinking this is our new normal. So there's no real post-COVID, it is what it is. But what are we doing now as we move forward, and what does the future look like in this space? But ultimately we know that things have changed. We want to talk about that change and highlight it, and also share a little bit about what's going on in our different spaces and what the future looks like. But I think also to have some really hard discussion about the realities on the ground and what needs to change. We've all said this, things will probably not go back to where they were. So saying I want things to go back to normal is probably not what's going to happen. What is the new normal? But what do we need to be deliberate and very intentional about doing in this space? Okay, so share with us, join in on the conversation. We have more faces in the room. Hello everybody. Yes, so if you're joining us now, we actually have a live audience in the space, and please join in on the conversation. So we'll invite you in to share your questions, ideas, and any suggestions that you have. Okay, so welcome. Good. Kulegani, thank you for joining us. He says, we are watching. Who's the we, Kulegani? I hope you've got a mass gathering wherever you are.
You better.
For this, you better. Okay, I think just to kickstart this conversation, tell us a little bit what's happening in your spaces at the moment. I know there's a lot of information, action, things we're reading in the paper, on the news. What's sort of top of mind at the moment for you, Darron?
I think, like most people in tourism, we're just looking at timelines.
Okay.
I think most businesses at the moment have taken a lot of pain, and one has to be very strategic about how you spend your limited resources and when you spend them. So, yeah, to me, I think it's really this tricky, very unsettling thing of timelines. You know, when is international travel or regional travel going to return? What are people going to be thinking and doing? How are the markets going to change? And yeah, how can we adapt to doing things better going forward? So I think it's, yeah, those are the questions I'm sure is dominating a lot of people's minds at the moment. And But yeah, I think there's certainly a lot of optimism of doing things better. Personally, myself, yeah, I've quite enjoyed the sort of forced reflection that it gives. I mean, was what we were doing really good? I mean, really good for people, very good for communities. Really good. Were we part of a good global thing, or not such a good global thing? And to me, the reset, the pause, just gives that opportunity to really think deeply about, you know, are you making a difference? Are you part of the problem, or are you part of the solution? And I've enjoyed that. It's given me a lot to think about.
I like that. Yeah, I think absolutely. I think this kind of pause, this stop, although jarring and unexpected, has made us look and feel things very differently. Obviously, we're talking tourism as Siboniso, and we know that it's something that's always been in our minds, especially for this kingdom. Always asking ourselves, how can we be more attractive? How can we be a really destination of choice? Maybe talk us through a little bit. What have you seen that's been really very much impacted during this changeover from a pre-COVID space to what is our sort of new normal now?
Interesting changes have taken place, and for me, first and the most important one is the shift from waiting for international tourists to come into saying, what can we do ourselves? I mean, the birth of Vakasha Eswatini, it's one huge change that we have seen. Emaswati were not even aware of their country, how beautiful it is. It's been listed by Lonely Planet as one of the best countries to visit in 2020. Actually, it's a top 10 countries to visit in 2020, sitting at position 5. And quite a number of other accolades that we have received internationally and having tourists from across the globe. But the question is, they're coming to something that we don't even know. What is it that is attracting them to us? And when you look at what people have been posting on social media now, they're even surprised that this exists in their own country. So that kind of reflection of saying, wait a minute, we want to stamp our passport, we want to go across the border, we want to go abroad, but what do we have here? And people are coming in, we're also working on numbers to bring people in, but we have not experienced it. And that is why we are very excited, and the major change that I just want to highlight is the focus and the rethinking and the shifting of paradigm in terms of us thinking, going into thinking, let's visit locally and let's see what the local have to offer. How many people know about this place we are in today? They're probably hearing it for the first time. They're trying to picture it in their heads. Where is it about? And it's right here. And it's something that we could lovely, and people from across the globe would sit here and write wonderful stories about this place that Darron is working on. But if you give that to a Swazi or a Liswati, doesn't know what to say about it because doesn't even know where it is. So I think then the shift has to, how then do we have a Maswati participate in domestic tourism? That's the first. But also, how then do we make a Maswati to appreciate even spending on domestic tourism? You know, people have got this euphoria of going out of the country. And then once you go across the border, you become a tourist and you spend at will. But when you are here, you feel like, why should I buy a cup of coffee at this moment? But if you go across the border, you feel it's justified. So we also need to have that mind shift in terms of some of the places that we go to across the border are even more expensive than places we have in the country, but we're more willing to pay out there. But we cannot blame people for that. We need to instill a different mindset. We need to instill an appreciation. And we need to saying, why are places closed when we are here and we are allowed to travel in country? Why are places closed? Why are we having few people here? So those are kind of questions that we should be asking ourselves. What should we be doing more? And as Tourism Eswatini, we are venturing into that space of looking into how do we get Maswati out of their comfort zone into visiting these places? How do we get them out of their sitting rooms and go out there? How do we say, instead of having these at the Pacific Institute offices and have it here?
Yeah.
That's the kind of mental shift to start with. How do you get you out of the boardroom into a conference room at a hotel? So that kind of thinking, and let's utilize our facility. So for me, that's the norm, the new norm rather than the mask help, sanitize and thing. That's the new norm that we need to think. How do we make use of our facilities? And
Right.
just as a parting point on this one would be, you see, I always make an example of the government introduced a law, whether it was popular, whether people liked it or not, but there was a law, or there is a law that says pension managers should invest a certain percentage of the money in the country. Okay. The last time I remember it was 30%. I'm sure they were planning to also increase it. But look at what it has done. Look at the buildings that you see in Babani, and look who owns the building. It's the money that we're investing out of the country. They begin to invest the money in the country, and it changed the landscape of the country. Emaswati are spending just over R1 billion emalangeni in South Africa alone for tourism purposes. Imagine if we spent that, that's per year.
Yes.
Imagine if we spent that, just half of that here. What did it do to this place? What did it do to our tourism landscape in the country? So that mindset shift that we need to start inculcating into Emaswati, I believe it will change and make a lot of difference.
So I absolutely agree. I think that mind shift or that perspective, that climate was sort of forced upon us. But that shift needs to happen, I think, sustainably. So what you're saying is, can we learn something from this? And how do we leverage then on this seemingly difficult situation to actually work it out for something good for our local economy? So Thabile, I'd like to turn to you now, because that's really where the birth of this Vagasha came from, Eswatini. So tell us a little bit, what prompted you into that space? What was the catalyst to saying, I can do something here?
Okay, so before the birth of Vagasha, anyway, just perhaps to clarify, I'm personally someone who loves to explore and travel. So beginning of the year, as with everybody else, they have resolutions. My resolution for 2020 was to explore my country. So I started in January, and I started exploring places, and the exciting thing about it was always just going to that, finding the place that I haven't seen before, or I haven't otherwise heard of, you know. So I would stay online, I would, you know, and I'd find these awesome places, and at the time I would share this content with on social media, but on my personal platforms, my personal pages and my personal profiles. So and then you would get the reactions. Where's this? You know? No, but I live, you know, there. Where exactly? I specifically recall one place which was at Ngaba, the Sultan's Retreat, I think. And you know, the people from Ngaba were like, no, but I live at Ngaba,
and I don't even know. Where is this?
and you know, the pictures from the images and the power of images, my good gosh, I mean, this country is extremely beautiful. We have the terrain, we have the, you know, everything is so picture perfect. And so from the views from the pictures that I took, and if you go to Vagasha Eswatini, the group, the cover page is actually that
shot.
Yeah, that shot.
Yes.
And people were like, no, you're having breakfast, and this is not, so people are thinking of all the possible places that I could possibly be at, and, you know, so from there, unfortunately, you know, with COVID, I visited a few places, but with COVID, you know, we had to sort of stop and take a back seat. But somewhere along the line, I think in June, I just felt like, you know what, I know for a fact that there's like-minded people that have stories to share about this country. This is an opportunity. Let's share stories about our country. And that just woke up one morning and I checked online. Is there a page called Vagasha Eswatini? There was none. I started a group, and yeah, it just blew up like that.
And we're happy about that.
Yeah, and it was just so mind-blowing how, on the one hand, there's Emaswati that are saying, yeah, you know, my country, this is my country. They're sharing that this is place and this place, and, you know, behind you know, where they live, there's a place, there's an awesome place. Because also with tourism, there's been that belief that I need to be in a hotel to be a tourist. You know what I mean? There is
check
that
in
kind of
somewhere.
Yeah,
get a
check
key
in
card.
somewhere. Yeah, you know what I mean? And so now this was an opportunity for people to say, oh, look, you know, there's this, and this is, the truth is, and Siboniso can possibly attest to this, when you have a busload of tourists coming into Eswatini, they don't stay at the hotel. I mean, they check into the hotel, and then they go and see these mountains and these, you know, that's tourism
They
to
venture
them.
out.
And so, Emaswati, on the one hand, when I was saying, oh, look, and then on the other hand, people were like, hi, boo, where's this now? You know, and it was just so heartwarming to see Emaswati appreciating their own, but also just the ones that were saying, no, I thought I knew my country. I mean, this is right up the road. I didn't know this place. And then now is an opportunity to be deliberate.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so that's
that.
really what all it was, what it was all about, honestly.
That's fantastic. So I love this idea of, you know, and I think what it did is it exposed us a little bit, right? This Vakashe Eswatini is we don't know our own. We are proud Emaswati.
Yeah.
But then we look at pictures and we're like, excuse me, where is this? So I have a little bit of a joke, and I hope no one will hold this against me. But at one stage, Hluti, I thought was across the border, and I needed a, So, but that was a long time ago. Please don't hang your head in shame. But these are some of the things when we're not exposed and we don't know. I was sort of saying, well, do I need a passport to go to Hluti? I thought it was across the border somewhere.
I can agree with you.
You know,
Moy Hook.
Thank you, Moy Hook. There's places where, right? And I love that because, like you said, Siboniso, the change is not just about thinking, oh, you know, can we go across the border? A billion emalangeni or rands in a year we spend across the border. Now, what we're not saying is that it's not. We're not saying it's bad to spend money outside, right? We are all part of a community here. But I think the idea is, imagine we spend half of that internally. And in order to do that, we need to wake up to the fact that there is so much to offer. So, Darron, you are an adventure extraordinaire. I mean, you do such exciting things. Who knew that you could do whitewater rafting, adventure caving, abseiling, extreme hikes? Like, there is so much to offer here. What are you seeing happening in this space?
Well, I'm finding it very, very healthy, and I'm loving the interest. And you know what, it's a trend that was naturally going to happen with development, like it's happened everywhere in the world. I mean, we aren't different. You know, we're not isolated from trends that have happened elsewhere. You know, I think back to the day I was involved. I was the project manager for setting up Shula Mountain Camp in the year 1999-2000, and at that point in time, I was also asked to help employ some people, and you know, the community didn't want to get involved because then it was them saying who was going to be employed. So they wanted an outsider to basically, because there was so much interest in working there, and they decided you know, there would be 5 people that would be employed when the camp opened. And so I did interviews of about 30 people. One of my questions was, so what is tourism? Simple question. 30 out of 30 got it wrong. There was absolutely, at that point in time, no real grassroots understanding of tourism. Tourism was labelungu. They're coming and they're helping us. They're doing a water project, and they're doing this and they're doing that, and that was tourism. There was no concept of even themselves traveling and doing something. So yes, it's a rural community, but to me, it was also like a dipstick of grassroots understanding. But I'll tell you how far we've actually gone, and how nice, such a warm feeling that you get from seeing this change. One of the people that I employed, I didn't employ. One of the people I interviewed at that occasion, and I met for the first time on that occasion, is now the chairperson of the Eswatini Tourism Authority. So to me, that just tells us where we've gone, this road that we've traveled, and it's the beginning of a road. You know, the rest of the road has got many, many branches. It's got many leaves on the tree, and you know, I think tourism's got a lot more going. You know, it really is one of the biggest economies in the world. We really, if we want to talk, you know, we're a seedling at the moment. The leaves have just popped out of the ground, and there's going to be so much more that'll happen. So, for people that are excited about tourism, that are interested in doing things, yeah, follow the international trends. See what people do. It won't be different here. We will get people that'll get enthusiastic about, you know, bird watching, and people get interested in butterflies and all these little fringe interests over time. You know, food tourism. There's just so many branches to tourism. Tourism is not just one thing. And this tree of tourism is just going to branch and lots. We don't all need to do the same thing, and that's the beauty of it. And the beauty of entrepreneurship is just looking for those opportunities and growing the market, and possibly just to go back to the adventure side of things.
Yes,
we've had to be quite patient to a certain degree with things that we do, because there hasn't been a huge local market. You know, whitewater rafting, water, falling in the water, swimming, nice food.
Oh my word!
And crocodiles, and you know what? It's not the easy. So yes, we've over time had to focus our marketing on international travelers, because you know they go looking for these opportunities. Most locals don't wake up in the morning and say, you know, I want to go down a river, I want to fall out of a boat, I want to swim fast so crocodiles don't catch me, and you know, whatever it might be. But you know what, it's markets change and they evolve, and I think the time is coming for a lot of those things. And you know, you start by enjoying walking trails, and then you want to challenge yourself a little bit more. And it's for us, we've been patient and we've been waiting for these markets to develop. We're very excited now. I think the opportunity is there, and potentially the volumes are there as well, because a lot of things are, again, this is an important thing for people to understand. Tourism is a business. Tourism is tourism when it's paid for. Otherwise, it's voyeurism. And I think Siboniso, he touched on this as well. We do need to understand that for tourism to be sustainable, it needs to be paid for.
Yes.
And if you want your privacy and you want something quite exclusive, you tend to pay more. And then you get products that are slightly more expensive. If you've got a big group with a mass number of people, you tend to pay less. Because at the end of the day, the operator probably needs the same amount of revenue to sustain whatever they're doing.
right.
And so yes, people need to. When you sit at a on a deck of someone's lodge, and this beer that you're drinking, this Thabile lager that you're drinking, is now costing you 35, 40 emalangeni, and you think, if I go to the bottle store, I can get a whole 6-pack, for not much more than that. You're not paying for for that drink.
Yeah.
Precisely.
You're paying for where you're sitting.
The experience.
The experience.
You're paying for the experience. You're paying for the time that's gone into protecting that environment, keeping it clean, keeping it litter-free, all of those various things. So it's our understanding of tourism needs to expand a lot into the experiential side. What are we experiencing? And to appreciate paying for those things.
And that people's livelihoods are tied to that whole value chain, right?
Yeah.
It's not just the lodge owner.
Absolutely.
And I think that also we need to break out of that type of thinking, right?
Just on that, I think we need to do, I think we as probably industry and tourism authority need to do more in educating Amaswati about tourism.
Education's a big part in any space, right?
Yeah, so that we can instill the culture of tourism once people now understand what is it about.
Yes.
Because somebody would be thinking, why should I be paying 800 emalangeni to sleep in a place when I can sleep in my bed?
Yeah.
How do we move that mindset shift and things like that? And the appreciation of, it's not just about you paying for the bed.
Yes.
It's a whole lot of an experience that you are getting there and stuff. And that is what you also do, because this is where the thing is. you also pay for exactly the same thing when you go across the border.
I was just about to say, we're willing to pay that 800 when we cross the border. For some reason, that seems more acceptable. But in our own space, I don't know, we expect a special treatment.
You feel like your bed is just 20 kilometers away.
Right. But our people are just as valuable. Our value chain is just as valuable.
So we need to instill that education, that culture.
That is so true. But also, I think there also needs to be. We also need to be very honest about how tourism generally locally has not been positioned for locals.
Yeah.
So that in a sense says that's why you would find that people would think my tourism is outside of the country, because the tourism here is for people coming into the country. And so because of that, then there will be those elements of lack of appreciation of what it actually entails. And it speaks to cost, it speaks to, people will feel they will always have that comparison. Now, the first time they interact with the price, it's 800 Rand. What? In Joburg, for 800 Rand, I can, there's always that comparison, simply because now they're interacting with this information almost for the first time. And the issue of proximity is actually quite true. People will feel, we get a lot of this, and some of the establishment owners are sort of having an issue. A lot of these inquiries will be around day visits.
Yes.
Because a person really feels, I will come in, spend the day, take pictures, go home. And you're hoping that people will then ultimately, understand and appreciate the fact that there are actual real costs of running the establishment. I remember another conversation I had. You find that with nature reserves, for example, there is that conservation fee, for example. Us walking on these trails and all of that, some of us are not that conscious about what that actually means.
What it takes.
Yes.
Yeah.
You just, now they must come back and sort of fix these trails up, and there are actual costs involved. So I think part of why we're here and why we're having this conversation now is the fact that there was never before now the deliberate attempt to ensure that Emaswati or the local residents are understanding that the tourism space, they have a stake.
It's for me.
It's for me here.
Yeah.
Tourism does not mean stamping the border.
I think that's very valid. And I think that's a big wake-up call. I love the fact that you're here. I hope you're taking notes there on your own. No, but that's exactly it. Does it speak to me? And if I don't see myself in the picture, if I don't see myself in the campaign, if I don't feel like I'm valuable and am being invited to be part of it, I may not engage at the level that I do. And I love what you're saying, Thabile, is also, even though we are going for day visits, there's probably a lot we can leverage. So also educating ourselves and stakeholders and service providers that what are we offering in that day package? Is there more that we can put in there? Because it's true, if I'm just going down the road, I have a husband who loves sleeping in his own bed, but it doesn't stop us from going to the day visits. But we leave early in the morning, we get there early, and we want a full experience and come home feeling like, oh, that was beautiful, and sharing it. And I love that platform to be able to say, this is where we were, this is what we did, and this is the experience we had. And that education is very important. I think it really is.
So, and the one thing that I find very stimulating about the number of photos and things that are submitted on Vagashe Eswatini is that everyone is recognizing the beauty of places. And I think there's going to be also a discovery of, how do you actually now protect that long term? And how do you look after it? And I think there's going to be a lot more people that are going to understand it's actually not that easy, and it costs money. To maintain a trail, to a very beautiful view site does cost money. To keep it clean costs money. To give people a feeling of security that, you're not going to get mugged by somebody in the bushes.
Very important.
Costs money.
Yes.
Even somewhere to park your car safely costs money. And I do think just by that sort of that interest, that exposure, and by the number of people say, well, why isn't this a tourist attraction, or why isn't that, or why isn't this? there are reasons, because they need to be managed, they need to be made sustainable. And it can be done by those very communities, or farm owners, or whoever it might be. But it does cost money, and I think that realization of it also just helps a broader understanding of, there is a value of paying something, and it doesn't have to be a lot of money, but just some small contribution, even to just a local guide. That presence of a local guide he's now got a vested interest in making sure that the place is kept clean, and the reputation is good, the area. Years ago I remember, places like certain dams and things were quite interesting places to go, and people would go there, and there would be unstructured places, and there would be a mugging. Ooh. And this was even before social media. The word would be out straight away. No, that place is unblessed. Mantenga Falls. And people from there, again, I'm dating myself a little bit. Before Mantenga Nature Reserve was Mantenga Nature Reserve, Mantenga Falls was a favorite place to go. It had the most terrible reputation. There were muggings there. There were rapes. There were things that were absolutely horrific that went on there. And for a long period, I'm very happy that that is so far buried in the past that I think a lot of people won't remember it. But there are those risks, and so these places need to be managed. They need to be sustainable, and people need to feel safe. You pay for safety,
and that takes resources, right?
It takes resources. And
so
those kind of plans. That ownership of the tourism product, I think, is quite important. Communities need to take ownership of their product and pride in it, and that pride is coming through at the moment on these online platforms. I think it's really just a case of just putting the pieces in place so that it grows.
I love that. Thanks for that. So I'd like to turn to our audience here. If you have any questions or comments, yes, we can see you. But also let's go to the online feed. So Tamsanga, thank you for coming on board, courtesy of Hip Hop. Thabile, your New Year's resolution united the kingdom. He says, thank you for following through on it and bringing us all on board. We stand fully behind the movement, Vakasha Eswatini. Lovely comments there. And please, for those of you who haven't yet discovered it, please go on and look, Vakasha Eswatini. Visit Eswatini if you want to translate. But please follow, come on board with it. It's a fantastic, fantastic platform. Tipo Vakasha Eswatini has been a breathtaking initiative. There's a lot of this country that I personally have been inspired to explore. So really very inspirational there. Bernadette says, my favorite weekend away is in Belusi Nature Reserve, camping or at the River Lodge. It's tranquil and has all the creature comforts. Some of my best memories were made there. So some lovely sharing coming through from people who have really visited and shared. But I love this idea of we need to be deliberate about educating. So I love the idea, Darron, about sharing those stories. So something very practical could be is visiting people who are in this industry and who are really very active in the space and saying, explain to us, what your world, what your space looks like, and how every one of us can be part of that process, but understanding it more, engaging more the community. I think that's the empowerment space. And we know that tourism has a knock-on effect on many different other areas. It's not a standalone.
Right.
So I love what you said about safety. I love what you said about cleanliness. So environment is a big one. And I'd like to bring this up also personally because, as I said, I was away for the weekend, driving through. There's a sadness that we see around kind of waste management. There's a lot that's lying on the side of our streets that's blowing into our nature reserves and into our spaces. How important is it for us to really be speaking, and maybe that's a voice that hasn't been very loud in our space here in Eswatini, in our country, is this idea of environment? Why is it that we seem to be distanced or disconnected from it?
Oh, well, I know that will probably put me on the spot because it is actually falling under our ministry in terms of, there was once a campaign, I think it's still there, it's called Hloba Swaziland, Hloba Eswatini. And His Excellency the Prime Minister was actually leading cabinet ministers in the different regions cleaning up.
Right.
You would remember it was done almost every weekend.
Yes.
And the idea there was to instill the culture of cleanliness and appreciation of the environment, because really when we talk about tourism, we're showcasing our environment, we're showcasing our scenery, and our way there should actually be as much as inviting. So I think there is a lot that needs to be done, but I think we need to embrace it as a Maswati, the culture of cleanliness. And I think we need to start, just like Thabile was talking about the issue of, and yourself, where you were talking about how if I'm not involved, I'm not going to participate.
Yeah.
So how then as a Maswati can participate in ensuring our environment is clean, and not just doing it for tourists, for your health, for your own good, and also how can we get even some entrepreneurial opportunities and entrepreneurship opportunities from there.
Recycling,
so we need
etc.
to start looking at things that way and saying, actually we're looking for jobs, actually looking for livelihood. How can we make that out of what we see on the road? And can also government be in a space to support such initiative? So I just want to believe that we need to do more in that regard, and it's saddening to see somebody, because this is me and you who throw that litter on the road. So before we can think about cleaning, can we think about what do I do if I have that litter on? Not like Thabile said, not throwing it. So we need to start there before government can spend money, before the Prime Minister can go out there and a whole Prime Minister collecting there. It's just instilling a culture of saying, let's be clean. But wait a minute, who threw it?
Yeah, at the end of the day.
Actually, just to add on to that, someone was saying, said to me, a friend said, you know, Thabile, we are the government.
Please say that again.
Like, we are the government. No one is coming, like,
to save us and to do the work for us.
We are the government. And it would be a tragedy to take this entire responsibility and lay it on the shoulders of the tourism authority, honestly.
Yes.
Not to litter, not to throw that piece of paper. I think the onus is on us, as we're being deliberate in going out there, to understand that you are accountable for everything and anything. Everything that you take there, you make sure you leave with, you know. And there's nothing stopping you if you get there and you find something from you just picking it up. You know, I don't think that we need a sort of a policy to come into place for us to just not litter. You know what I mean? So I just think, yes, we can, like, you know, the tourism authority can do so much, but if we don't have that you know, that perception ourselves of cleanliness and of understanding that there's animals that will eat these papers and then they can choke or whatever. I mean, it's just not, just like your home and just like your personal space. If you're going to keep it clean, honestly, what's stopping you from not doing the same when you're going to someone else's house or someone else's premises?
Absolutely.
It's just, we all have a part to play on that one, honestly.
I have to agree.
Yeah,
Darron, I know we were speaking earlier about how actually there has been perhaps even a negative knock-on effect by the closure of, you know, places. There's a lot more takeaways, and yet we seem to have been very quiet around thinking, how do we, number one, clean up our country during this quiet time when we're all at home, when we're all in our communities, but also what are the possible changes that we can look to do? I mean, the world is talking about it. Yes, we don't have seas near us, but we need to understand that those rivers lead somewhere.
Right.
What do we actually need to be very serious about?
Yeah. So I think, and Thabile mentioned this as well. You know, with all respect to the Prime Minister launching that campaign and giving it the focus. The problem is it became a top-down type of thing. And I was trying to get involved with, you know, in my back garden here is Lubamba. Lubamba is almost the cultural heart of Eswatini.
That's true.
And it's filthy, man. It's absolutely filthy. You know, the waste, the rubbish that is lying just in the streets there is like, you know what, so there's this little disconnect of pride. You can see the pride, and Emaswati have got pride. But we seem to have a pride just in your space. You keep your space.
We sweep to the edge of the fence.
And just outside the space, that's that's government's problem, or it's somebody else's problem.
Yeah.
You know what? It's a greater problem. So, you know, we did line up. We had quite a lot of interest in cleaning Lobamba, but it then broke down because ministers got very busy with other things, and the date got changed, and then so, you know what? It should have just carried on with people on the ground getting the job done.
Right.
And you know, people in Spofaneni can definitely, it's the #1 destination probably for filth, and I'm sorry to point it out, but people there need to wake up. And there's a couple of reasons for that. It's a commercial point, and a lot of people, it's a big bus type of thing, but Spofaneni has it's got a real problem, and there's only the community in Spofaneni and the business owners in Spofaneni are actually going to solve that problem.
Yeah.
So they need to put their heads together and do it. But it needs to be a ground up.
Yeah.
You know, we've got Vagasha Eswatini, we need Kloba Eswatini. We need people putting their faces forward, saying, you know what, I'm proud.
Yeah.
I don't mind picking up litter. I can put on a pair of gloves, I can pick up litter, etc., etc. I think a lot of us do this hiking as well. You know, I'm not scared poking fingers at ladies. Ladies love leaving these white flowers everywhere on the side of the trail. You know, there's these little white flowers that you see that have been dropped there. Ladies, I can tell you, I pick up your white flowers. And yeah, it's not particularly nice. You don't want to pick up.
That's actually embarrassing.
You don't want to pick up those little things. But you know what? We need the place to be clean, and I think we need to get over those sensitivities and things, and you know, just take up pride.
But Darren, I think it's what you're saying. I think maybe we need to redefine pride.
Yeah.
Because if we're looking from the top down, then we feel like, oh no, that's not what I need to do.
Yeah.
So I think we need pride to be redefined. What does it mean to be prideful? Do we deserve a space? Our community, ekaya, in my village, in my home, in town, wherever it is, do I believe that I need to live in a place that is clean? Yeah. Do I deserve it? Do I believe it?
So I've been really struggling to try and work out this disconnect between littering and pride. There's so much pride in this country, yet somehow there's this disconnect, and I haven't put my finger on it yet. And someone explained to me the other day that the problem is particularly with something that you buy, your relationship with that thing seems to end the minute you've consumed it. Whereas really we need to look, you've bought something, your responsibility for that thing ends when it's been properly put in a waste disposable, and it could be a municipal disposal, it could be home disposal, but your responsibility with that can, your responsibility with that bottle, and you know, we're talking about FOMO packs now.
Yes.
Now, those, for people that are very conscious, that's a real touch point, that one. You know, these polystyrene containers, they really are the most visible blight on the landscape. Unfortunately, a lot of people's lifestyles and livelihoods are actually attached to those. You know, if you're going to buy takeaway shisanyama, chicken dust, if you go to a lot of big events, everything is served in polystyrene containers. Polystyrene is not easily recycled, so there's no one willingly going out and doing those. We need to have these discussions, you know.
And it's multi-pronged. So even though we are putting things in the dustbin, where's the waste management? Where does it go from there to a landfill? We have winds, it gets thrown out back into the environment again. So there's a whole chain that needs to be developed from start to finish. But I think we need to ask ourselves this: do we deserve to live in a clean place? And I think when we feel like that is the standard of excellence that we are buying into, it doesn't matter if, Thabile, you've dropped something, I'm at your home, when I see it, I pick it up, I'm part of the solution. And I think too often what we do is, yes, now I'm in the combi and I throw out whatever from the window, it's falling onto the road, I'm not at home. The homes are spotless, but the minute we cross that boundary outside of the fence or the boundary of that homestead, we see it. And I think we need to buy into more that this whole space is my home. But I think it's about what do we deserve? What do we believe we deserve, right?
True.
So let's turn to the screen again. So we have Tipo, who's also sharing. The ETA assisted in some community-based tourism projects across the country. Sheula, Mahamba, Maguga, Sangwini. Most of the projects have not remained the same as initially intended in my view. There is the educating the market or Swazis aspect to it. But there seems to be more to it as well. How do we invest in ensuring that these community tourism products remain sustainable and keep to the required standard?
Fantastic.
Hey, those are good questions.
It is. So I think it brings me to also the topic that I wanted to just add in, the issue of the theme for this year,
Yes.
which is International Tourism Month.
Okay.
So the
this
international-
is International Tourism
Yeah,
Month.
September is International Tourism Month,
Okay.
or World Tourism Month, wherever you put it. And then 27th of September is the International Tourism Day now.
Okay.
So the theme for this year is tourism and rural development. And that's exactly what it is about. And the development should also be inculcating the mindset shift in terms of once the project is in, how do we maintain it? How do we own it? How do we deal with it as a business? So it starts way back to saying, can we be entrepreneurial? Darron said tourism is a business. And we need to instill that to even the communities as they run those projects. So just on the tourism month and the theme, it simply says, how can tourism play a role in improving livelihood in the communities? So it's
love
simple
that.
things like, if there is Sangwini, is there Sheula, Darron that worked on, if there is Kelekele, if there is Makatsavane, Mhlumeni, whatever the project. I'm just mentioning a few in no order of importance. But how then has that changed the livelihood of the community? So it's simple things like, for Darron to get there, he needs an access road. So there will be an access road, and indirectly that road will be servicing the community too.
Right.
So there will be now a kumbi that was actually, you had to go for a few kilometers to catch it. Now it's at your
Come closer.
very much close, because now of the road that has been much better since there is a tourism facility.
Right.
And also there should be electricity there.
Yep.
There should be water, probably a network for
absolutely.
your telecommunication.
Yeah.
So now the community will also benefit from that electricity, will also benefit from that network, will also benefit from the water. But more than anything else, they will also get a job there. They will also be supplying some of the fresh vegetables and be part of the supply chain. And that is how tourism, if it's well inculcated and is embraced and introduced at community level, it can change the livelihood of the communities.
Absolutely.
And that is what we're trying to promote on this. So yes, we need then to have Emaswati embracing it, to say if it's a community project, how is it? Because once we have a community committee that looks after the project, they must understand and treat themselves as a board.
Right.
And what does a board, what are the board's responsibilities, the fiduciary responsibilities of a board in terms of taking care of that? So they need to be trained there. If they hire management, what is management's role in ensuring that this is happening? So we need to deal with it as a business more than just as a community thing that is happening there. It's a community-based business project
I love
that
that.
we need to do. So I just wanted to touch on that. I will also touch on so that we just talk about it. Also that on the domestic front, I'm sure Thabile would be happy about this, because he wants to also use the Vakasha platform, Vakasha Eswatini platform, to promote domestic tourism. She is deep in domestic tourism, and we want to enhance that by focusing and saying we have launched and I know I'm guilty because I didn't invite you on
You
that one.
didn't,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah. So we'll talk about it
Some
after this
settling
one.
of scores.
Yeah, you know,
But at least I know.
you didn't.
So we launched domestic tourism.
Yes.
So a domestic tourism campaign is with a slogan that says "A wonder awaits, explore it."
A wonder away, explore it.
Awaits,
Awaits.
explore it.
Oh, a wonder awaits, explore it. Okay.
Specifically saying, well, Lonely Planet says this is a small country with full of wonders.
Yeah.
And Vakasha Eswatini has been unpacking it.
Those
And we are
wonders.
saying to Emaswati, go there, explore it. In Siswati we say ingayizivile, ingayizivele ikulinzele. So that Swazis go out there, or Maswati go out there and explore it and enjoy it to the fullest. And industry, the likes of Darron here and a lot of other industry players have come in and said, we, as part of promoting this, we are giving 50% discount on accommodation.
Wow.
And we've got quite a number of establishments, and we want this to go on Vagasha Eswatini platform. And they're also saying on the day activities, they've got 30% discount on the meals if you want to go out there. There are serious discounts. So we'll be sharing this with Vagasha, and there will be a lot of this sharing of information and the list of the hotels and accommodation facilities that are offering this. So to try and drive Maswati to consume some of this product. So we are saying right here, we are committing that we'll be sharing a space with them to showcase some of this information, but also inviting Maswati to visit Eswatini Tourism Facebook page, and our Instagram page is Swaziland Tourism, and they will be getting more of this, but we'll be sharing this also with Vagasha so that they are able to get more of this. And indeed, a wonder awaits. Let's explore it.
A wonder awaits. Let's explore. I love that. Thank you, Siboniso. So obviously we'll be putting all these handles up on social media. I'd like to take an opportunity to turn to our live audience. Any questions, comments that you'd like to share with us at this point? Anything from you? You've been part of the discussion since the start. I'm sure most of you have maybe ventured out, seen things. Anything that you'd like to share with us? Bridget, yes.
Yeah,
hi, Bridget.
I just wanted to ask a question. It's so lovely to hear about all of the awareness internally in Eswatini in terms of making the people within the country more aware of the beauty of the country and also what they can do to protect it, even though it might just be in your backyard. And so many people have been just grown up like that. It's so nice, but I think a burning question on everybody's lips is, when are the borders going to be opening so that we can, as people in Swaziland, encourage the international people to come in here and being more equipped with what this country has to offer, just encourage them and also educate them while they are in this country. So I think my question really was, any thoughts on when the borders might be opening? Or is that a rhetorical question?
No, she's putting you on the spot.
Do we need to give you a few moments?
No, I think we are all waiting with our breath held at one.
Yeah.
And remember, it's a national thing.
Yeah.
We cannot open our border. We're a landlocked country. And of course, remember, government is prioritizing health of everything, and there are still cases that are increasing, and now that things may be a bit stabilizing in South Africa, we can raise our hopes. But of course, it's something that we need to be discussing, and governments are discussing on an ongoing basis bilaterally, the countries, especially South Africa and Mozambique. And they also, South Africa, are not even open to international space. Yeah. So it's an ongoing discussion. They're analyzing the data in terms of flattening the curve on COVID cases, and they are really assessing that space, and we're all waiting with much anticipation on that. So I cannot put it across now to say we're expecting end of November or what, but it may be something that may happen sooner, but really it's an ongoing thing. But it's more of a health assessment and advice from experts, and then they will advise on that. But for now, we're all holding our breath for it.
Yeah. Thanks, Siboniso. I think the whole SADC, if SADC could open, I think this is the idea, we don't want to be dependent always on the outside coming in. We also need to create our own sustainable systems and a regional base. But I think it would help, and I'm quite excited to see how we can be, even within the SADC space, sort of more sharing best practice, but building from within. What do you say, Darron?
Julie, the one thing I'd like to go back on is that point about how do we make community tourism sustainable. And I do think that we do need to quite critically gather together our learnings from the past.
Okay, yes.
One of Siboniso's colleagues, Sipho Simalani at Eswatini Tourism.
Right.
If you talk to him, he's got sad eyes. His eyes are sad. because he knows too much. He knows all the difficulties of actually making things happen, and I really feel for him, and I really think that's he is a resource that needs to be tapped into. He's been involved since the early days of trying to get community-based tourism up and working. The fact of the matter is, it's actually not that easy. You know, having a beautiful rock or a beautiful view is not in itself a guarantee that your tourism product or service is going to work. Tourism is actually quite a complicated business, and all those learnings of what worked and what didn't, what worked with community boards, and whether that was the right structure for doing things, whether it needs to be, whether the things that are more entrepreneurially driven are better than ones that are driven by an entire board. Okay. All of these various things need to be looked at, and also a sharing of knowledge in particular things. Now, one of the things, I mean, domestic tourism is very, very important, but again, we need to be realistic about it. Domestic tourism is probably only 2 days of a week, possibly one, and one needs to have that understanding. So if you're going to set something up, if you're going to pay somebody salaries, etc., etc., if you're going to be focused and your marketing and everything that you're doing is focused on domestic, understand that your flow of business is probably going to be 2 days of a month, particularly if you're in the type of product that's rural. Close to town, if you're running a conference center or a restaurant or something like that, you're going to have corporate traffic and things like that in and out. But if you're a leisure-based product, leisure for people that are working here locally, your leisure is on a Saturday and a Sunday. When churches are fully open, it's now a Saturday, you know, because Sunday is church. So our market here for domestic tourism is good at the moment, but it's still a thin thing. So there is another important point, and again, Eswatini Tourism, the ministry, but I think the country as a whole has got a responsibility also on how would we like to see our tourism industry develop. Because even again, tourism is very broad and it works in different places in different ways. So some tourism works on the forbidden fruits and doing things away. You know, what goes on tour stays on tour. So you can develop a tourism industry which is very attractive to the region, where people go away and behave very, very badly because they know no one knows them. No one at the office is going to say, hey, that was you behaving drunkenly and chasing women and doing this and doing that because you take. So, you know, let me not wonder that's why $1 billion of our local money gets spent across the border, because you can go and, you know, be anonymous there and not worry about it. But the same thing, we have to be quite careful, and this happens all over the world. You know, the English travel to Holland and behave badly. The Swedes travel to England and behave badly. And when I say behave badly, you know, people like to relax, they like to enjoy, they like to have a few drinks, and that's very much part of the tourism type of thing. But a lot of that kind of binge behavior is not necessarily good for the host country. Right. You know, so in some ways, what I'm very enthused about, particularly with the types of posts and the interest that we're seeing, particularly Vagasha Eswatini at this moment in time, is that gravitation towards healthy lifestyles, wholesomeness, the walking, the outdoors, the views. It's not about partying until 4 in the morning and waking up with a babalas and then leaving and going. So, you know, these are questions. How do we steer our industry towards being healthy for locals? Right. And I do think we can. You know, we're a small enough nation and focused enough that we can put a very, very bright shine on Eswatini. It's good for you. You know, here.
I love that.
You know, you come here. If you're going to come on a weekend from Maputo or from Mbombela, you know, Gauteng, wherever it might be, you must come here not because you're going to party and go crazy and then, you know, crawl back across the border with a babalas on a Sunday. You've come here, you've experienced something, you've walked up a mountain, you've seen this, you've enjoyed local products, you've eaten healthy food, you've had conversations, you've met local people, you've made friends. You know, I think we need to try and steer our product. And what's quite nice then is that you have a similar product that is very good for locals as it is for our regional market. And we're not dissimilar to our regional markets.
And I think that's very important. It's what you were saying, right? Is tourism for everybody.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're saying. We need to actually be we need to interrogate what is it that we want, what is in line with our values, and then move there. So I like what you say. It is, yes, Darren, I think we can appreciate that it is complicated, but I think sometimes we complicate things. At the end of the day, is this what we want? And if we are serious about it, then we can stop the PR stuff and actually get down and dirty and do what needs to be done. And I think at the end of the day, that's something, if that's anything we've learned through this whole COVID space is, you know, let's do away with the fluff and the frills and the things that actually don't mean anything, and let's just actually get real with some of these things. Have honest conversation. Do we want it? Yes. What needs to be done? And let's go. But I like what you said. Let's also learn from the things that perhaps didn't work. So, you know, the mind setting is a big key. And obviously the Pacific Institute is very passionate in that space about mind setting, because that's often where the block comes in things happening, right? But ultimately, yes, we need to have an honest conversation and choose what we want and say, right, if this is what we want, what is it going to take to get it done? And be unapologetic about it, I think. And to own it. What you're saying is to really own it and to say, this is what we're here to offer. And we know that it's real, we know that it's good for you. I love that. Can I turn again to our audience, because I see that we have some, Selu would like to speak to us. Selu?
To the launch of domestic tourism. Is it something that's valid that's only open until whilst borders are closed, or is it an ongoing sort of long-term partnership with the hotels and with the discount codes and everything?
Okay.
So I just want to know if we're pressed for time, or we can just spread out the activities for as long as we can.
Great question.
Sorry, can I just add to that?
Yes.
Also, what has been coming up in Vakashe Eswatini a lot has been the inquiries around local tariffs and local rates for just as a standard, because this happens in other countries where the locals have a local rate.
Yes.
And I mean, I personally appreciate that it's not an overnight thing that will happen, and more so because honestly it wasn't really positioned for the locals. But you know, if there's any, that conversation is happening parallel to this, because you know, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, are we going to come back? Yes, we know the normal has changed, but if that, just to Ngigisa on her question, just to say, as the tourism authority, is that conversation happening? Because we see that a lot. There's always that someone is just going to come up and say, no, but why is it that we don't have? Now we see because of there's a promotion, or it's happening. There's a campaign. But what happens after that? Can't we also then be working towards having a standing local consideration for locals that travel? If you're local, then there's a rate for you that is standing, you know, even post-COVID.
Keeps it accessible. Yeah, I like
Beautiful
that.
question, and I'm glad Darron is here to help me also on that one. So, two things. One, you would appreciate that, as Thabile has already alluded to earlier on, to say the focus, just summing it up, the focus has been international tourists all along, and it's been doing well. So it is a new thing to solely focus and zero down to domestic tourism, and we need to drum it now and make it bigger. So this is a new norm. It's not just for now. So we are constantly, even industries, coming in and checking how will eMaSwati respond. If now you are talking about the 50%, are we using it? Are we taking it up? Because that will then tell industry, oh, by the way, so if we do something for eMaSwati, then they respond to it. So if they're going to have 50% and we still do not take it, how far could they go? Should they even? So yes, we are also giving in that space. So it is happening while borders are closed, but there's got an intention of going beyond, because now domestic tourism is a new norm and it's a sustainable one. And as you know, the Pacific Institute is about sustainability. And that is why we are very much keen on engaging the industry in also coming up with packages of that are going to be specific. So Darron has talked about how then we can work with, I mean, he's talked about exciting the thrills and the ones that are looking for excitement, the ones that are adventurous and stuff. So we've categorized this clientele that we may be having here. And so Thabile will be coming up with some packages, hopefully with industry very soon, to say if you want to just go for a weekend under the thrill and you want to go as a group, these are the packages that are available. Probably Darron will help you with that. And then we're trying to work on something similar to that kind of a thing. And we are going to categorize it. And he has already said about if you are wanting something very exclusive and private, and there will be a package for that. Of course, it will be pricier than if I take all of you and we're going down to Malolocha now, we're going to do some zip line or some cable car, and we're all having fun, we're having a pride there and stuff. There will be a package that looks into that, and there will also be a package for exclusivity, and there will be a package for families, because we've also categorized them. If you want to go out as a family of 5, mother, father, 2 kids or 3 kids, how do we go about doing this? So we're packaging that so that we then focus to the domestic tourists. So we're really trying to come up with that to also address that gap. So it's something that is long term, and we need to start somewhere. So while we are still working on those packages, industry has said, let us agree on that, but now we have specials that we are running for the domestic tourism, then we are going on in that. And then on the special price for the locals, I think it will be indirectly be encompassed as we do these packages, because these packages can be internationally pegged or domestically, and it's an ongoing discussion that we have. And that is why I started with the statement of saying, let us appreciate that the focus has always been, even as Darron was saying, tourism is about welcoming people into the country. But now when we focus on us traveling, it's going to be a different conversation. So yes, there is an ongoing talk, and we'll be addressing that.
I love that. I think that's also an important one, to keep it accessible, yeah?
So I think, I think the conversations are very useful, and again, platforms for these conversations are important as well. So I think there's been a lot of consciousness for domestic tourism over a longer period of time. Sure, we're putting a focus on it at the moment, but it's been there for a long period of time as well. You know, big game parks of Swaziland have had a split rate for the last 30, 40 years, where it's cheaper as a local than as a... Same with the ENTC parks as well. They've also got a split rate. It's been there since the beginning of time as a concession to locals. I think what is important as well is, you know, you ask the question: will these specials stay in place long term? So if you're in any business and let's say you're making dresses, for example, and you can sell to this person for 100%, or you can sell to that person for 50%. As a business person, what do? You sell to this person for 100%. Yeah. So I think there needs to be an understanding. Discounting is useful, and it's a business tool, and it needs to be used as a business tool. I don't think that all establishments here will maintain discounts. So yes, this is a message. There's an opportunity right now as domestic tourists to access a lot of places, but let's not be naive about it. A lot of these places are bleeding money at the moment. They are just trying to keep their heads above water, because of the fact that there is no other thing. That's not necessarily an evil, and it's not necessarily a problem. Again, remember, tourism is a business. And if we can bring foreign exchange into the country at 100%, you know, that's not an evil. That is actually a solution. Now, it all to me just boils down to differentiation, and also to community-based tourism. Now, part of the problem with the original community-based tourism is it was very, very focused on international travel. Now, to access those international travelers is actually very complicated. They don't just pitch at your doorstep. There's a long process, and there's a whole distribution. Community tourism wasn't well set up to be able to deal with it. So it then fell on the lap of Eswatini Tourism Authority, which again is not necessarily, its job is promotion of the country, but not necessarily to hold a tourist's hand all the way from overseas to arrive at the doorstep of that particular business.
Right.
So again, the mature thing to look at it is, you know, where should those establishments be focusing their attention, and what is needed? And, you know, then look, you know, maybe the closer, more affordable marketing environment is local, where you can talk locally, etc. So a lot of it's, to me, it's just fleshing out of the industry. Tourism is not just one thing. It is many, many different things, and it's the satisfaction of demand. And if there's a demand for certain things being done at a certain price, like there is at the moment, and everybody's seeing that you know, at this sort of price level, there's enough people interested in doing these things, then people must pivot their businesses to satisfy that market.
Right.
Or new entrepreneurs must step forward and take up that space. And to me, that's very, very healthy, and it's a broadening of the economy in that respect. But I also don't think people must bash upmarket tourism places that are bringing in foreign exchange, paying high salaries to managers, and, you know, doing a lot of other social good. So I think, people must understand a discount is there for a reason,
and serves a purpose.
And it serves a purpose. And don't bash places because they're doing what any other business would be doing.
Thanks, Darron. Sorry, Thabile, I'll come to you now. We obviously are kind of wanting to wind this down. We've been with you for a while now, and thankful for staying on with us. So maybe, Thabile, as I come to you, and maybe to you, Siboniso and Darron, if there's any kind of last words that we want to say as we log off this particular conversation. We know that it will continue. But yeah, just Thabile, over to you.
No, he's disarmed me. You know, like Darron is saying, tourism is a number of things. It's not just one thing. I think if it would have done, as a country, would have done a huge disservice if we do not take the very glaring lessons of this period. Where, in as much as you know, we do want international tourists coming in, definitely. I mean, we've been thriving because the industry has been thriving because of them. But I think we now need to be more deliberate in the industry has to be now more deliberate in a double-pronged sort of, you know, approach.
Yes.
And now, just on that issue of, I'm always also cautious to say, as with anything else, there's targeting that these establishments sort of do. There's nothing wrong with an establishment charging what they charge. You know, if they costs, they know what they have to offer for that cost. And just us as tourists or travelers appreciating and understanding the fact that, you know, some things are made for me, some things are not, within that. So I do foresee a situation where even if we do go with that split, it's possible that I won't still afford it. You know what I mean? And that's okay, because it's okay for me to then, you know, explore what I'm able to afford and what I'm able to I mean, to the places that I'm able to go. I mean, I guess it's a more complex conversation because they have their reasons of why they charge a certain ways and all of that, you know. But I'm just saying that if the industry can please try and make sure that even if borders were to open tomorrow, even with the local domestic tourists, they will want to rush to get their passport stamped because they've been stifled. They're like, oh, can I just get, you know, they've been saying there's this joke that they just missed that sound of that. Yeah, it's just that, you know, so that we will get that. But that now we do also know that a fraction of those people will now, for every 4 weekends they were away, now maybe 2 they'll be here. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of low-hanging fruits to pick up from
Absolutely.
this. Yeah.
Thanks, Thabile. So I think we've heard it now, and I'm sorry we're going to have to cut this a little bit short because we do want to go to our feature. But I think essentially what we're saying is let's be deliberate and intentional about looking inwardly. There's lots to support, and I think the challenge is how can we all come together. There's a lot that we can learn, and there's a lot that we can improve. But essentially, this is a very important part of our lives. It needs to be accessible. We need to have something to offer everybody. And then we need to drive it, like Darron said, as a business. We need to understand that there's a real business case behind it and appreciating it, but also for establishment to be challenged to also put out value and to understand what are people looking for, where is their opportunity. We need to rethink the space. We can't come into a new era with the old thinking, and I think that's what we need to be challenged, is how do we do things differently, but at the end of the day have a net positive impact locally to inside, then going outwardly. And I think that's kind of the overall key from this conversation. So thank you for joining in, ladies and gentlemen. To our live audience, thank you very much. Some already have tooted out, but we've got some our old faithfuls here. Thank you for staying on. As you know, we always support local and want to shine a light on what people are doing in this space. And as we said when we introduced ourselves, we are in this lovely location, which is Farm to Table in the beautiful Valley of Heaven, Ezulwini. And we'd like to just shine a light a little bit on what's happening in the Farm to Table space. And so we'd like to go to a feature now where we actually speak to Sydney Chambers, who's going to fill us in a little bit what's been happening and how you can come on board to support and be part of this beautiful story. So over to you.
Hi, welcome to the Farm to Table Pantry. Thank you to all our guests for coming through today. You might know Farm to Table from our box deliveries that unfortunately have been on pause for the past couple of weeks, but I'm very excited to announce that they are coming back with a bag next week. So check out our social media, our WhatsApp group and our email listserv for information on that. We're also very excited to announce that we finally moved into a store here at Mantenga Craft and Lifestyle Center. So at the store here you can find everything that you know and love that we always have in our box deliveries. We've got fresh baked goods, we've got fresh produce, chilies, jams, preserves, everything sourced locally. And then in the coffee shop, you can come and enjoy the foods that we supply on the shelves, deliciously plated by our chef. So we've got gourmet open sandwiches with fresh produce. Everything is pulled directly from our shelves, and yeah, you won't miss out if you come and enjoy what we've got to offer you. We also do this weekend, we've got a potjie Saturday and Sunday running where we are serving gourmet potjie using our local ingredients. So come by for that if the weather's good. That should be fun. And yeah, follow our Instagram and our Facebook for updates on our deliveries. Those are starting soon. And otherwise, thank you so much for coming, everybody.
Thank you very much. That was our feature. Thanks, Sydney, and for having us today here. We obviously have some goodies. You can come along, have a coffee and breakfast even, and then pick up some really, really deliciousness in the store. So this is a lovely place to have, and I think it's great that you set up a stall here. So it makes it all accessible for us. Sadly, that brings us to the end of this lovely morning with our beautiful panel. Darron Raw, Thabile Maripe, Siboniso Madlope, nice to have you. Thank you for sharing with us your thoughts, your suggestions. And I think what we're trying to say here, ladies and gents, is we need to be serious about this. Let's stop hopping and skipping around it and saying the right thing but not actually doing anything. Right. Let's actually start to formalize some of these discussions. Like Thabile said, there's low-hanging fruit, stuff that we can start doing now consistently as we start to build towards sort of more inclusion, more engagement with the communities, and just taking it to a real level where we can actually, you know, see that we've done something really very meaningful in this space. So I think that's what we want to say, and we know that it takes many people from different spaces. Obviously your organization is very important. Darron really is a big player. Thabile, you're on board. As we said, we would love to partner as the Pacific Institute in the mind-setting space. So wherever we can come on board, I think we need to come together and let's be serious, I think, and intentional and deliberate about it. And I think that's That's the question we're saying. And ultimately, I think just an awareness, ladies and gents out there who are listening, as you adventure through this beautiful country, I think we all need to know whether you're going hiking for a walk, take a recyclable plastic bag with you, pick up the litter. It's all our problem. It's not just one person, one organization, government, whoever it is that you're thinking is going to solve the problem. We need to solve this problem, each and every one of us, and educate our community members on this. We deserve a beautiful place. Elsewhere in Africa, you won't even see a cigarette butt on the floor. So is it possible? The answer is yes. Do we want it? Well, that's the question I guess we all need to answer. But you've been with the Connect. DTtv has been hosting us. Thank you very much. As usual, we have the dream team behind the scene. Linda Rego, there's Pinky Nyandoro, and of course the rest of our team available. Thank you to all those at Farm to Table for hosting us so beautifully. To our panel, I hope we'll see and hear from you even more. Again, please follow Vakasha Eswatini, follow Swazi Trails, follow everything that's happening Eswatini Tourism Authority, or is it still Swaziland Tourism Authority?
Eswatini.
Eswatini,
Yeah.
thank you. We finally crossed over. That's always good. We did have some prizes to give out, and I hope we can still do it. I don't know if we have time to do it now. Can we do a promo? Yes. So Siboniso came bearing gifts, ladies and gents. We love gifts. The gifts are not for us, it's for you, and mainly the audience. But you've got some questions. Hey, we need to make it a little bit competitive.
Of course.
So tell us a bit about the gifts you're giving away, and do we qualify for those?
Not for today.
Not for today.
Not today. Yeah. So thank you very much, and thank you for hosting us. We are excited, and we believe that this will bear a lot of fruits going forward. And I'm particularly excited that going forward, I can pledge here we'll be working with Vakasha Eswatini.
Yes.
And thank you for bringing her close to us. She's been running away.
Oh.
So thank you very much for that. So as part of celebrating that union, we are giving away a dinner, a lunch for two.
Okay.
Right here at the Smoke and Grill.
Oh,
yes.
Lunch for two at Smoke and Grill.
Yeah, boy.
Lovely,
so,
lovely, lovely.
Quick question.
Yes.
Would be, what is the theme for the tourism month, and can you tell us our slogan for
So we're testing listening.
domestic
So
tourism?
what is the slogan
For domestic tourism?
for domestic tourism for the month of tourism?
Yes. Okay. So it's two questions.
Okay.
The first one is, can you tell us what did we say is the theme for
Okay.
the month?
What is the theme for the month?
Yes. And then the second question is, can you remind us what did we say is the slogan for our domestic tourism campaign?
So what is the theme and what is the slogan?
I know
So-
even Thabile has forgotten this one.
Oh, really?
Well, no, she hasn't, but you said we couldn't be part of the competition. So we're just going to keep quiet and leave it to the audience, the guests here. Anybody, please be part of it. Yes, Selu. A wonder awaits, explore it. Is that right?
You go explore it. You start with the dinner, with the lunch for two.
The lunch.
But I also
Okay.
want to hear now.
Yes.
There's the second part to the question.
Yes.
And if she only answers the first one, she's going alone.
Oh, really, Siboniso?
So if you want to have the next person with you,
change those rules
what's
along
the
the
theme
way. What's the
for the
theme?
month?
Tourism and rural development.
Please take whosoever you want. Thank you very much. You're having your lunch at the Smoke and Grill.
Lovely.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gents, as you know, we continue with the Connect. Stay tuned with us. We are back in your space, but we're changing it up a little bit. So stay with us on social media. We're going to put all the handles on there for our beautiful panel, what there is that they're doing. Come on board, look, give us feedback. I think that's very important, and I think that's the challenge also I would like to put out there for all those who are running businesses and have establishments. Engage with your customers. Feedback is critical. It allows you to know what to do better, where to go to next, and some beautiful ideas will come from your client base. So really be open and provide a platform for people to give feedback. There's beautiful ideas, right? And there's stuff that you may not have thought of that could be your next big story. So thank you again. Have a beautiful day, ladies and gents. As you've tuned in, we thank you for being with us, and we wish you a beautiful, beautiful weekend. Stay safe. Bye-bye now.